nyina ba yasido nanka me deteka ya kwa me nkọ ne ba me mba pressure kwa na me damenda me didn't nyina ba yasido they spit on my face so they block our way so yo na me na shira na shiwo me say what you mama me say me chema o na me na shira na shiwo me say what you mama me say me chema o me didn't na ba yasido why am I born? I'm in Fanche. Don't you want to know what I say? No, but to me on top of the patch. Could you my motor in my fashion? And then I'm from Ramesh. I'm on your man, baby. I'm a through you. See you when you're Yamina Shira. She oh, Miss Ojemania. Miss Ojemania. Yamina Shira. She oh. Me didn't know by acid. Me didn't know by acid. Oh yeah. My head bunny I'm fanche. Why am I bunny I'm in fanche? Don't you money that I want to say? Never be to me on top of the battery. Could you my boat in my fashion? And then I'm from Ramesh. I'm on your man, baby. I'm a do Simu and Yan. Now, she died. Now, she Miss Ojemania. Miss Ojemania. Yeah, now, she died. Now, she.
Hey, that's your body, baby. And the upper face. Say a high and a soon and your coibaco. Over will pursue the issue. Now, ever yeah, behind it, dear. Papa catcher, Sakania crowd to be maybe. And fear night, the soon. What person do cook with the first Sumbano? What show they call it? And fear what can another crab, your daddy, your Daniel. Tio, or teacher training allowance, will jump. Nursing training allowance, will jump. Upo, will jump. Program men to a day. A Baba catcher and say, we put to me grab it, then now to one we have been paid to me. No, Baba will be an Adam. About 1 hour, Cotono. Obise, Kanyana Edumno, I am mobile phone to the Kanyana Edum. Obise, California crying a mobile phone, and the Canadian baby, it goes so. Obise was 20 training allowance him. Obise, but the Asaba, I'm a teacher for the Critical School, about one press. Obise, on the nursing training to a chump. Obise say, that was so. I'm a Nippon Critical nursing training allowance at school, but I day, I'm a home press. Open way, Obia, or see. Oba obesi selection was zongo and obi also obesi the aspect will grow when happen and now Akufo-Addo buy no also about free secondary school obesi say or secure 200 billion grant all for your free secondary school and send the back the 2 women oba be dey abai papa and do this say ba here ni skadi obi ada ho faso president Akufo bye or the free national health insurance by the boy, or the national health insurance by the boy, or your free maternal care by boy, or saying your mission now for you for uncle with you free. Me say about your country and you that your back, and you soon and a career. Yeah, you pay career no. You better my Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. I know what to Yeah, your body about Ghana. On my free water, free electricity. On my here for the other. I'm going to buy not free body by. But we will be your food, your pa. Your food, your pa. Your food, your pa. Fatiako South, Fatiako North, New Dublin South, New Dublin, Obia to Obama, High Memoir, Obia to Obama, Oslo, now that's here, Abamo, let me show.
Mamu Najo na Mama Wakwaba about the 11th episode of the Next Chapter show. Like I always say, you know, yakwa kotwaba akabeye bosome be ennan na yakotwaba abatwo ehun sonson so abatwo mbre do say ya ensem no doso papa wom bone wom nokra wom entro wom etia na ho be hia se vote na kwakoto na ba obetumi nya enyina so ode beto aba no nempo se ensunsun so bi ba ono abetumi bisa na ho se dia megina so de to aba no anya bia mense tumi aka na mense ntumi aka enti the Next Chapter show no de eye purely for education purposes see de beto ato adwen ira cheche niam mu na ida pensem mu nsemu enu ti na mbre bia ka se on the Next Chapter show yen diatem yen kasenti obi yen ye kasentwi ye kasa pasa ye dia ne se sani asemu ni sitie no na ye de ato ho na wo wanya nyina so e de ato aba ye gidi pa se oman we mu abato ye kwakoso on the 7th of December no between Omanpenin Dada John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, and your flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was also your Vice President of the Republic. Obu mi no way, penifo mi no way. Say ye kase ye kwakoto aba. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia edi de nimu kra. Simply because ye gidi say or a little bit more sincere than Omanpenin Dada John Dramani Mahama. Ye gidi say ne dono woma oman Ghana no e sonko ekọ nanim ese Omanpenin Dada. Ye gidi say ne niswade hu no so eson emu so da ho ntiase wom dodo ese Omanpenin Dada. Ena ne kese pa ye ka ne say owo eniswade hu bi a wa cheche mama Ghana fo nyina ti a eho be hia say ye be ma ne kwan na ono so de woni mu no ono so de aba ababa ya ma ya hwe ye kasa nsem we nyina no eho be hia say ensem ni bia yate ana ekoso ana akoso a entiase en hyedan ye adwuma na say ya cheche mama na chia no ebe biebie ne so ye me I have always held the view and I've always said say eto de bia yankasa MPP yankasa yeso ye ka ho na yama ho kwan e man nsem no bebre achia because NDC for no kono be kan nsem to yeso a eya yama ne che ansan yetumi aba be cheche mu aka ne se ne city ana say ya kira asem no mu se ne city especially knowing say we have an opposition party a omo flag bearer ejina platform aka say abatwa mreso a and is on video ntanyem na make see abatwa bia so breso a and tra no mu di film no kra no mu di film say ne be ya nipa no ebeto aba no ama nti woni ekuo bi sei edi atentama eho be hia say obema won cheche mu no aye ntietia eneyi ensem bi a akoso for close to about 7 years 6 years ebe cheche mu ne ya ba mu ne ya biebie ne so na sempo wo fie ne bia asem no se ne wo siti ye no wo te no kwan foforo so obisa say it is say na asem no tie na se no na wo pese original so to aba wonya nyina so papa e de ato aba banking sector cleanup me yisa mu bebre ate eno mo go banks no eno MPP buy mo go banks eno mo collapse bank ebi mo say oh na MPP kra omo kra 9 billion anko metumi ne aba banks no na mo de 9 billion na gu banks no banks no metumi de sika na mom na mo de gu no ebi mo so se na mo gu bank na adwumayefo be 4000 akatere fie na mo adwuma gu ebi mo so se ankrankra nnwuma owners of the banks na ya say mo adwuma omo mpom 70 eniama bebre adena sika na de gu bank no ya fa mom ensem bebre no problem ene ye be chichim na de ba kwa mpese meka de nyina ti ase answer ya start program you can say enye no credit say the new patriotic party under Nana Danko Kufuado egu banks ewo Ghana. The MPP never collapsed any bank. For the records, the facts of the matter is that MPP SCV collapsing banks. But banks are not egu every 2012, 2013, 2014 egu. Some banks no ena MPP are buying who say banks ni begu na say almost na say ejeja ye hona banks ni gu pe ye besi ni say ankra be hwe omadwuma omo ye adwuma ye fo so adwuma begu na ne tisiri nipa 4.6 million bia omo sika da banks no omo sika be hye omo nwuma be hye omo fie ekombedi omo ehia beto omo nti MPP make sure say ye be service our banks na begu no ego no kai say ansa na yebedu sam pempen so ya yetumi ka say banks we ibegu no na microfinance companies any banks no na NDC are buying na nkasa edikayaka as far back as 2014 wo report me say financial sector no is about to crash. Now microfinance companies any banks no are on the verge of collapse. NDC are buying new. Said the microfinance companies and the banks were going to collapse. Omotina see here in Shanghai, Emma microfinance companies in eguye. Eko wiye no na microfinance companies in Mako be 82 ena egu. Na hana mbese mutie ni ye. Sa wotina se na wo ye in Shanghai na bank te send ya NDC former microfinance companies 82 nugu ye no. Egu a de ba ne se omo microfinance companies ni yomo dia no omadwuma no asai egu ntano ye 1 ye toso mienu edwuma ye fo na ye edwuma microfinance company ni mu no esa ne se microfinance company na egu nti omo so omadwuma ye den abomo afi ne me ensan ne se omo sika eda microfinance companies ni mu omo ne microfinance companies ni ye edwuma omo ye dodo no omo so sika no so aye den ahye ne bom sa wan tena se na wan ye nhwa ha na se wo 200 na mo to send the MPP are buying 200 amount saving collapsing banks na ehun sunsanso no and the resilient banking sector ene ye wono ene over 4.6 million depositors obi enu obeka se ni sika akemo no ehun sunsanso eno no na esane se ne be ya yen koka se miracles ena wabetina next chapter so ena oye no what to say oye banking and finance expert media near street analysis. If you nyansa no, na me de chechi. Nansa na meko if you nyansa ni mu no. Me te brofo, me to me kan ti ase. Tu tronko ade amekan e mate ase na ma chechi. But yenko tie dia omo makodire mu, omo bin mu, omo want ase wo no. Yema mu di kan chechi ye sane ade ni sete ni ensua ade enfrim. Yesua efrim wie na omo chechi mu wie omo kom de wie no. Na fe de aba na ewo mu a ye fefiri mo no ye nyina ye bobo ntie ne ye o ese se omo te banking finance na se no e cheche yade ni mu ye na ntiase ye adwuma ye ti ase wi a ye de ne se aba ewo mu no ye be fa aba ewo mu no na de aba ewo mu no abo ye bra nti ye ne ye ti ayeye for the first time on the next chapter show ye nya guest you are the very first guest of Professor Isaac Boedi, a professor of finance, any accounting. Professor of finance, any accounting. Or no one know the dean, Emma the faculty of accounting and finance, at University of Professional Studies, Legon. Now, UPS, say University of Professional Studies, Legon. Oh, University of say University of Professional Studies, say Legon. And then Legon. I want to hear Legon. University of Ghana. Oh, Debbie. Oh, and then also I don't know Babe Abebuame. All right. Now what church me tea for me for. It's a person made University of Ghana and UPSC debate never. But we say one maybe da.
Oh, say about.
Only a prof you ever come as
right.
It's Yama Kwaba. Na te say na be can church mu no.
Right.
And then no ye pese ye hwe na wo boy ma agency ase kakra say ye ka say banking sector crisis. In fact, ye be wie dwumadie no. Niam ye pese o church mu no ebi nie. Edi enkra na ye banking sector crisis. Den na kofa ba ya. Na efi embra crisis ne sha ase no. Anamo ben na aban a abetwem etu efa ho. Na ehun sunsanso no etisen. Na saa namo na aban a betwem no. From the professional and technical view, no, what does it mean? Nempo obika say na 9 billion na ye di go bank no kre e am pass ye go bank bia na na so wa chechirem uwia na ka say sa 9 billion no sanka de ma bank na sanka bank no be survive nti ade na yam fa ma bank no yes so uwie so na wa chechirem uwia na wa say chechirem say enti enwuma ye fo na ye adwuma no ene omo adwuma no ye omo de no any depositors no see ye ka say ohawa ba amani aba nti ye see save obi a why na wadwum no odwe say save no. And what exactly does it mean when we say your banking sector crisis and your banking sector difficulties? Nti ye beja akonya na ma na we take you through all of these things na ye wia ye won sem be saving so prof na ya bomodin ebisa ho.
All right, is another connect.
There be any prof. Any way kra. Any way. Nti yebe wie no, we need to make sure say prof the entiase be adwuma. Because bibi no wa say obi tifie na o take a decision based on misrepresentation and misinformation. So say asemo a nipa ne hye den ninti ase ewum ana say esane intro obi atwa kire ninti na abeda nipa ne team no dey take a decision. Na later we say third year na yen sanity. It's next chapter the area and say you say every viewer and every listener of your show no educated. Even though yen next chapter your buta yen say wa utie no obeto abama Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia no. Ye gidi say yen kasa koto abama ne keke ye say onye nyina so sonko a obegina so dey den e dey ato abama no. Na dey ba ko ha yen say ya kato ya so for so many years say ya be collapse banks. You need to say you collapse banks based on the facts and the issues. So what church we na say you pass collapse banks e be jato. What church we nso you collapse banks na ma ahwefo ene etiefo nso etumi enya ntiase ne ye. Enti the say na ya ma menom ka no. Over to you Jolate.
All right. Then this is that's very. I mean say Obojuma, Mr. Shrow. That's also what on suffer me say bidi komo. I mean say for the past month in your classroom kwana o se gina church nkofa de o se ba na abeto beba your motivation is enka you beto aba on issues nti yeso de see ni so say you near tie for your nkrofo ya kai ho abu you be call man mu to anamo kakra last week na ye sati wakra last month ne kokumase you be call north near western region so your church nkrofo say na go to aba in fact intent to aba in fact it and to aba and for will be fit into aba no the to aba issues no quarry and also the to aba until frame me say I share the same vision with you and then time is major name be as member near be home komo na you can banking sector crisis I say it take or die you can hear another report to be kakra and then we say over the time you say asamba back for discussion na dey bia no every say near me as and say aban ya bonus sombo be brave say and I say Bank of Ghana a Bank of Ghana by extension I buy and you know we go enyuma we go banks and let me say conference be brave ba akro mu intama ye can same we are na we don't want to play on emotions because others have gone through a lot of movie until ye first say any bre asem on this whole issue men supporting your kind in your collapse in collapsing banks. This administration announced the VOG in collapsing banks. Oba on media, social media, as well as economy na crash, economy na economy. So economy grew into negative, and a case economy no a crash. Into the same to the banking sector crisis. over the years, and let me say, you can't crisis. So what? When you man kuyi, you basa, then you man kuyi in the banking sector. Now banks na one. For me, about 70% of the entire financial sector. You can't financial
banks in Nkwa.
Yes,
I see.
Because banks, you can't financial sector. You can't the Stock Security Exchange Commission. You can't be the stocks market.
Okay.
You can't MPRA. You have about 4 legs.
The MPRA no more pension for no more pension sika.
Who don't mean now boma or financial sector, but the banking a major about 70%. And for me. Into Debiano, I am now you touch sector now you're very careful because one found some year now I'm managing it well. The entire economy will crash. Into you come back. Who say over the years and now and you made the come kakra and could do certain number of years to be over in 2000s and 2006 2005 who won't say banks brief in Nigeria
yeah
just giving a genesis our banking said
we could 4 time no na banks the be fee say be jibosia pa be adwuma ne ade yeah
identity banks in Ghana on Ghana because na Nigeria omo raise on capital to raise capital juma scan out they share juma no e koso into omunyeska banks and say send the idea almost should be very good countries no one investment to we have GTBuy Unibank UBA no Ghana that time them say enyo ma ekoyie obe hu say now ye fro be jisika na o ko project bank I've been a banker before I may go into academia they understand the issues of the banking sector see enomu I say your man penny could 4 fee. Tell me say in 2020, I think 2012, 2013 and who say issues by and see ever come back near Kohenia is see on.
But prof, and the banyan teacher when MBB sim na you who see the city and see what's the demystifying the banking sector clean up. Nature say banking sector now in some more you see ube pipe no we biebiem no be ati as yet sir now the account said the facts said the no credit na woman okay prof yanko ejamo
enti o share the first one I say member introduction kakra na I say here for be sure me call back to 2017 na abayin take over or take over no or your investigation say then they cost in the banking sector now American men can say, oh yeah, no, who say, and you will be in Koye.
Okay.
And your man in Koye, no, in 2017.
2017, okay.
And I'll take you over.
Okay.
Or take you over no investigation about the banking sector, no. Now, if ever report, we are now ordered.
Okay.
Now, oh yeah, no, who's investigation, no, a poor corporate governance, and you want me in Sunday hygiene. Now, you force financial reporting at your poverty in your power.
I know, the dream where they.
I just say, so Ubu Akonta Abrebia every year. Now, we change the figures.
There's a old can in the city. Oh, I didn't hear 5 hours, 15, and I 6 hours, 17. If you 17 hours, 9.
Reported there, you were 2 financial reports, separate financial reports.
Papa no, and what you're the chair. I see.
And internal report. And poor on a year report. Inside that dealing is what so what related parts
into the opposite can say in 2017 now you buy MPP Aboagye forming new management at the Bank of Ghana. You be who say report be crampo hodada. As I report in it say your financial sector banks no near the end. You may be cause why enkoyi. A bino and say inside that deal and say ye minim say so you take a decision our bank the say would the sikabana ebro ebia 500,000 ye be ma ebia between 15 to 20%. And you be an and just our bank the one that be into we business obi ba need to be can e be am 10%. But inside that deal and the son say wo mu na wunim nti wo kwa na ka chobi say minim say e ha no dey fa 10,000 round the bar ye be ma say na o wa share no ayaman ho let you say
and there were third party I mean, related transactions.
And I see it.
So, one castle companies what be brain. Now, Oma Sikaso from the bank. Now, Odiama or sister company.
And Tinipa no bank. We be a bank. And we say be a pure water company. And I will be a bar. Now, it's an say bank the end DNT or bar no be fiscal bank the sika. They are me no way that to bank anymore. Or bar no be fat. No, they are command company now a year be a bar. And now the company now a year your friend is a pure water company. On phone. And now so the man no say bank this the company be to meet you. So to meet you and no yen asem. Nti ye sika na dia kwato bank say on hwe so man no na o cheche sika no. E ma ono ane ho. I see. E ko so wo my way mu.
Em say bro cuz o te bro.
O de bisa me say street there no. O kan bro for na. Ah, o kan bro for na ma cheche mu street mu. It is street there and there. Me ti ase pa. Oh, so that happened in our sector. It happened in our country.
In a banking sector.
Oh, okay.
Reports on the
okay, but you
and also we, you know, money here now. Make sure other companies we are not on this at the coho. After we say a boss and one take a decision straight away. No, yeah, and they say, "I bet you no boss." No what I should say, new management. No, yeah, no. On it for banks now more issue better. Until no me. Now, about say over 16 months after our investigation, Emre, so baby, we can crowd. Now, about my background.
Before I come background, Roma, you take a very quick break. Then you hear sir, for new, and then you come back. Then you give us the background after the TC more answer. You take it very quick, very quick one. Now, you come back.
Me didn't have a acid. They spit on my face, so they block our way, so yo. Now me na shira, na shio. Me say what you mama, me say me chema o. Now me na shira, na shio. Me say what you mama, me say me chema o. Me didn't have a acid. Why am I born? I'm in Fanche. Don't you want to know what I say? No, but to me on top of the battery. Couldn't my motor, my fashion. And then I'm from Ramesh. I'm on your man, baby. I'm a through your see you and then. Yamina Shira, Nashio. Miss Ochemania, Miss Ochemao. Yamina Shira, Nashio. Me didn't know by acid. Me didn't know by acid. Oh yeah. My money I'm fanche. Why am I born? I'm in fanche. Don't you money that I want to say? I'm over to me on top of the battery. Could you my body, my fashion? And then I'm from Ramesh. I'm on your man, baby. I'm a do Simu and Yamina Shira, Nashio. Miss what you mamma, Miss what you mamma. Yamina Shira, Nashio. Mustafa, Mustafa, Paluta Senge, Kim Paluta, yeah. fanche. Don't ya money that no one can say no bet to me on top of the patch. Kuni ma motere ma fashe. And then I from Ramesh. I'm on your man, baby, I'm a through your see you and then. Yamina Shira, she oh, Mr. Jemania, Mr. Jemao.
Prof, it's a very interesting conversation. You are telling us, say, before I be 2017-2016, now on my way, you were reporter, not indicated say your banks in a struggle.
Yes, Marcus. 2015.
2015 report.
Reports.
Okay.
Or the found asset quality reports.
Okay.
On me and the banks via also yes I'm read via.
Okay.
And see, on me yes I report no. Now I say you want to implement it. You want to implement it.
And see, even though you did a report in 2015, I say your banks no egu, your microfinance companies no egu. Report say your bank ni muno, pay for bank ni yomo diano. Ebi mo ede bank ni sika no to chacha. Omo de show mo nyuma. Omo ye niema ebema ye sika eri akomo mo no. Ehun beto chima no yan ye ho hwe. But you dey na cause bi.
And see, now me can be the come back. Say we need to lay the emphasis clear. Say, I say administration won't collapse the banks.
Okay.
You rather save the banks.
And see,
the banking sector.
MPP are buying and collapse banks. Nemo o save banks are eba be collapsing. Why answer my first question? E didn't see them okasa.
Well, yeah, baby, we play with figures and numbers. Now, all core hospital or yarea, it even a chest or yare. And you say more drukeke. A bank beer and then she beer and over school ninya will be home indicators. The same thing. So in the banking sector, we have indicators that say, being cool year, or say, we should sign your money now. Now you show say those bank, I was say so high. So rather save. So once save those banks are entire financial crisis, got the whole bank will shut down. Just like Greece.
See, say not done quick for intervention or yeah, banks no. Kawanya, Kagana, you see Cassim University.
Very.
I see. I just was about me.
And to go back, now me do start here. Now you could be say those and you might course over the period, and this were report. But kind who say 16 months were given over a period of time. Now
16 months was given as what? Say on fire day.
For a mere fan to tell me your year.
Okay. So it's Bank of Ghana in 2015 who said banks in Yemen and Kui.
Good.
And I ejat to and I feel another report by in 2017. IHS almost year insider deal and poor governance in the idea. And now on Bank of Ghana more 16 months. So I'm fancies your money. What that means?
Yeah, the report was captured. The on-fire report in 2015.
Okay.
I was say a year a Juma.
Okay. 2015. As in former government, former NDC government. Good. Okay.
Go from 15. It was 16 or it was 2017. Let me say a buying take over 2017
January. Yeah.
And the question may be so we say why is he implemented our report
in 2015? And then I implemented in 2016. Okay.
You better answer that question. And you send our banking sector it was growing, but also facing underlying conditions be an okay. Because banks names about 33 banks as at that time. And you na say, but report no pointed out to 10 of the banks.
Okay.
Say I will see you film. Because when you move film in a bank and you feel bank run, bank panic. The bank panic and say me call bank, say me call you misika. Na me sanka misika, me framing you say call me call and almost say misika me sanka. In this idea, me call another bank. To be to me call other bank. O call other bank wa, one sanka be free obiso. After my entire population will be a castle Queen's Call Bank.
Yeah.
Now the day be a castle call bank, a Queen's
Call. I know crepa. Say BC, the other countries some experience Bibisa. I think Greece.
Yeah,
experience Bibisa. Say one share Greece video no man along the line am mo.
Yes.
Even Nigeria crowd and say number be Toma Bay. there was some panic bibisa. Do baby cry banks, you know, they had to close their banks at some point because everybody was going to withdraw money.
Greece, it got to a point. Okay, to ATM. Unyeska.
More Greece video than more Greece video, no mami. Why? This is the Greece video. This is a Greece situation where Greece or minor financial sector no eguye. Emma almost shutting banks and koye line near DSA almost kwako yiska ewo omo bank on be scan you no my queue for days. So that is what happened. And you are saying that is where we're heading towards as a country. But so we give Greece video the mami had there briefly.
By Elena Bekatoros via Skype. She is the bureau chief for the Associated Press in Athens. So what does this mean, that the banks and the stock market are closed tomorrow?
The banks and the stock market will be closed tomorrow, and restrictions will be placed on how much money Greeks can withdraw from their bank accounts using ATM machines. The Prime Minister announced it in a televised address. He said it came after a recommendation by the Bank of Greece. What he didn't say is exactly how long the banks will remain closed and how much the banking transactions will be restricted. A few banking sources have told us that the banks will probably be shut for several days, probably the entire week.
All right, so if all these banks...
Prof, this is a situation we're likely to face. Seka, fixed situation, and this is what we're likely to face.
Right.
And see, we're going to have a financial sector crisis. Kofoba airlines home kuyo musika omunya bank negu. Unsanka usika obiansu ni one manasho. Is that the situation?
In fact, it was a timely.
Is that what we're likely to face?
Yes.
That is what we're likely to face, and that is what the report said in 2015.
Right. Until share a year, me man for Nikakra before the figures say to her before. Yakura size situation 2013, Ocean number of banks 27, and also 28, 29, now call all the way to 34. ATM, actually, Ocean asset growth, then this entire, your figure where me for the entire banking, I mean, the offer and microfinance, offer, your friend saying, rural banks, any other banks, in figures in it over the period. Now, it was growing at a point in time. Now, we share the major development in the banking space. In 2013, you launched 6 new banks and other microfinance will become. And about 2024, GN Bank, you man lanced some fund juma. About 2015, HFC Bank, you man lanced some fund juma. About major development across the banking sector. Over 2016, 4 banks, over sovereign bank, Obekai sovereign banks, Obekai premium, Obekai Omni, Obekai heritage. These were, and then 2017, any more minimum requirement capital, so you increase the banks in the ejuma because at an oil company, Brabak Gronoma, Opejuma or so bill, now to me, yes, Cademon, to increase. Now, around the same period, let me say, reduce banks, and it do 23. That's the period. Now, before the collapse, Americans, this is a report, a memo report from a former CEO of then Capital Bank, Nasa Mokeni. Say, Okano ha. I say, Legon versus the UK.
I say, we win kakra.
Eti memo they call ma omo penny for but say idea better bank in or say we regret to mention that unless we act ourselves and so with all the promptitude that it deserves, things might go out of hand, including the possibility that the Bank of Ghana may step in, by which time it will be too late for us to make excuses, with all of us risking sanctions. Memoir.
Enti CEO of Capital Bank Tro memo we internal memo anambwa 2014 or say any yase or kase so ma hwa ye hu bibia enimani bia intentem so a niema be ginsem na niema na be ginsem no ebetumi abampo so ma hwa Bank of Ghana ebetu na esim na sambre na Bank of Ghana betu na esim na niema akechira omuntumi nya excuses via ma Bank of Ghana na wa hwa Bank of Ghana be kwa betu ma yeden atwe omaso Capital Bank CEO 2014. Good.
we no san ka say me the economy engine to ma and it's a vote of no confidence me pay okay see you now obeka say your man penny be can send be about try say I'm expectant that the criminals conduct the can be a Bank of Ghana homes and say could be a court no now oba baka I feel na a cost over time the board governor of Bank of Ghana said 2019 also crack a whip also pija ban cost no be kakra ho into can be wa also in short the financial system had reached a tipping point e be do here nyi also be ho ti you say you go ni wi ana say science and bab on ten say you say banks being shut down as for be kai in some course media space na e haju be brave e bi no say na banks no more then a man be only accountant for omo international chartered accountant omo hu say we be see na e say be break also and ma picking your comment I from social media and cover kind yen share honest of some of the comments from them o show we are o say I knew the baby was sick. We GTV now, Papa, Emma, TV3, sorry.
But anyway, we a UT Bank. Penino.
Okay.
Owner of the bank.
What was he saying? Or say, I knew the baby was sick to the point that I had to step out for another person to step in as CEO to respect.
They say, owner of UT Bank, I guess I did to me say, not the bank.
Oh, yeah.
Nti do baby no na so do kra atwe no film no baby foforo etwa so
I wasn't expecting the baby to die because of the brand we had created and the impact it was having on the national economy. I feel say high level non-performing loans contributed significantly towards the bank collapse. Now Baha first one say the fortunes of the bank could have been turned around if the Bank of Ghana had given us more time. But also we can say 16 months, we are 16 months over the period. Good. Every time we are here, we will be or there by general chief as a police. So we need and now you need.
No more time there. I don't know Bank of Ghana more time kakra.
Obesha me di kaka say ohun sa report in obefa akunyane 2017 one pentem and crack a whip. We can say onom san sin kunya
international report we no ya ren the above 2012 Emma Bank of Ghana at the report about in 2015 actually banks in the omonye and 2018 crab banks Bank of Ghana babe international omunya embre kakra
and it's not obo mom ska kakra na owner of capital banks so name one also kind. I am not happy man. I'm not a happy man. I am not a happy man person at all. Because I have been in banking for 77 years. I have been in banking since 1991. I have been a good banker. I have been a good person. I have been a philanthropist. I have been a person who has supported a lot of people. Commenting.
So the bank no went to me and manage. Now, Bank of Ghana Boano, on Manembre.
Yeah, Manembre. And they gave liquidity support over the period. Yes, over the period. Now, let me say, if a person say, "Well, Bob Bray, you or mine," let me say, we can't take that away from him. Sabi, find you ma, find Crawford Bray. Now, I had at this point. I'll say, if Dr. Papa Kwasindu say, "Find out, the central bank should have supported indigenous bank to grow and expand instead of collapsing."
Now, where they collapsed, where banks collapsed.
They didn't collapse.
Where Abangu Bank.
Wangu Bank.
Sir.
Those banks na a year no.
If you 2015 reported, now reported they say omo begu. Say omo anye mu bibia. Nti enye say aban we ne ba begu no. Nemo ye wo evidence che say not report or why che say omo begu. So omo anye mu bibia.
And I'll show that report very soon. Nti aya you need the word collapse in fear because aya picture ni nya ni ye.
Is there any official document Bank of Ghana na bibi etro collapse?
I'm here to cite that document. But let me say on media space.
Created bibi ne dey about say na collapse.
Because collapse, the word collapse, anoding. Right. And there are things that you should say collapse. Let me say Papa is so be kakra. If I comment and say by afterwards or no. In my own personal view, I think that the decision by Bank of Ghana to withdraw the lands of only GA, but other bank and amounted to policy failure. It's at
2015. Before 2015.
The policy failure, no, Emre Ben I buy.
Long before 2015.
Good. Yeah, here's some of the comments in the B. The reforms were necessary to restore confidence and trust in the banking sector and ensure financial stability. We see Ira Anderson, Dr. Anderson. And we say, so the cleanup of the financial sector was painful, and we admitted that. It was painful, but necessary aside to ensure that deposit funds are safe. And I was happy, so I started talking, I said, 4.6 million depositors. Sikana wasn't careful.
It's about Nipa mako Ghana for mako 4.6 million sika. Edanka Ijayema banking sector ni guye to send your microfinance in the way and sika beshe. Okay.
Indeed, there were almost 4,000 employees as against 4.6 million deposits.
Indeed, so what sheni year banking sector no egu if 2012 and a Bank of Ghana and penny for the NDC are buying through reports say banking sector egu, financial sector egu, microfinance any banks. Oma young she ema microfinances egu ye. The microfinance the gu ye no. Employees in the microfinance ratio majuma. Owners and also businesses egu. And a microfinance depositors in so sika ye day. Ashe. To the extent that Ubekaya DKM they have to take this government to go and look for money. Yeah, taxpayers' money to go and pay them. So can be sir. Okay. In Tinka, yet now we are and yen to one more and protect the financial sector and creating measures, any absorption that you create in Anka. And owners of these banks no be lose on banks. Employees in be lose on Mojuma. Now 4.6 million depositors seconds why day. Okay, but you into us.
And today we are now Ubisa says 3,000 or 4,000 against 1.6.
And see, for the microfinance sector, and this is buying a giant nipa stakeholders we are selling in a share. Owners, employees, depositors. And I'm not saying my banking sector and also ash. I'm trying to report it. Say egu. My young share. Anka MPP are buying tenas ya yen shaha. Anka Sami and Sawina. Anka you lose 4.6 million depositors.
Good.
You lose over 4,000 employees. You say lose bank owners. We took a decision to save 4.6 million depositors.
Okay. It's a simple concept. In terms of Frank Kujo Sokaivi, I say the banking sector cleanup was important, but approach and the speed. The problem is approach and the speed. That could be a different discussion, but also confirm it was important. Now, about collapse of the bank and other financial, so the four collapse of the banks and other financial institutions is a reflection of weak oversight and poor governance.
Weak oversight, and why do you want to know?
So the oversight the mother body.
See, there's a Bank of Ghana.
But Osaka said governance.
The governance is here, the bank.
Okay. Tiru and Asamo no Asuka. Now, I say you can't impart it by you can't that almost 9 point something album. Now, share report in here. This is a report. Few things might capture her. I pointed out to 10 banks they were undercapitalized.
And then we report by year by report.
2015.
The 2015 report actually said 10 banks they were my way.
You spot on that.
Okay.
Home end the door or see cleaning because I yes sir saw the entire system anymore. Every crash.
Yeah.
And see or point it out. No, some can be said some bank deposit taking institutions lack good corporate structure. This was captured in the report. Or say almost like a good corporate governance structure. Several owners managing conflicts and or the banking practices coupled with weak supervisions and regulations. These were the report. No, Saka, these owners, CEOs, and related executive, non-executives, directors were largely responsible for credit extension, breach related party transaction limits.
And what's the HSA?
HSA, so when a company, a year of sister company, Shawasia, who are limiter, I was of the manner. let me tell you, say Bank of Ghana said Act 930. So, she said it was said beyond 25% but they were giving all this to.
Internet say owners of the banks, no. It sounds a bank in AD&T. Obi abeje busi onim no, ni nua na danfo no wo fa se. Ono to be was we no in time as one fe bin kan man.
Good.
It is ono to be was we mama na busi so qualify so qualify as a man and it is
Into practice governance issues. Okay. And now report medical kind so capture. Into banks are 10 banks no. And then
UT Bank, Capital Bank, Unibank, GN Bank, Royal Bank, Sovereign Bank, Premium Bank, Beach Bank, Construction Bank, Heritage Bank. Okay.
Next period yes at TB no. And run a year or hoche common be only a around the same period. Now question let me be saying your home is I didn't answer report to you.
That 2015 report we no. I didn't see the jato say why a report when we say bank in I didn't know jato when you within the same period, there's a microfinance companies 82. Eguye. It's not what were we waiting for?
They said, me and Beye, no jato hono. One else simple.
Until Sana 70. Until in 2015, no, NDC are buying who say banks in Ibegu. MMOI report, Bank of Ghana report. It's on the website. It's on Google. Oko Bank of Ghana reporter. But who you know my own no mujaye. Say Engu. And indeed, microfinance companies in Iguye. My mom for see cashier, owners and so Jumaguya, and a Juma for so Jumaguya. Into ye buy and a year then.
It's also be implemented.
Report now,
report.
NDC for a year, baby. See, I just say, yeah, 1 year, and they say, almost report almost year now. Almost on be implemented now. Almost that on my implement, yeah, be implemented.
It's not make us say, about your mistake.
It's MPP Boniano.
And I saw your mistakes.
Mistake in there.
I was in Kojai.
Come on, I saw 1 year. Oh, next is a microfinance.
We can say, and they say you're born soon, boy. But you,
I don't see it. I know. So, can buy person your political.
Yes.
And go back and say, oh, said your year report now. Yeah, they are missing Jai. A good one, I say, oh, no, yeah, because now can see you no
very good. Great. But now the blame on
yeah, normal sir.
Good.
Yeah, normal sir.
Now, me for 3 because I'm saying our back room the break.
Inti, explain to me. These 3 banks where they collapsed.
Good.
Because what people are saying is that collapse of UT Bank and GN Bank, where these banks collapsed.
Now, you can say dead before arrival or something. I don't know course go up. Now, I collapse that.
Until that banks we are collapsing.
Honest, Ankasa, any management.
Yeah, because UT Bank penny kaya.
Good. And a CEO of Capital Bank. What's the no good at that?
And I'm a Kaipa GN Bank say. In fact, at some point, you know, Okosa uko use car. Ekropon, not GN Bank branch. Okosa uko use car as a system ni yejuma. If you are okwa, upeso you are usika or they are 20,000. Almost oh, you remember 5,000. A channel about the account. So it was happening. It was real.
And it shouldn't happen in the banking sector.
It was real.
Because that's the only place I trust in. Wait means come out, but if I don't trust you, but the bank I trust the bank. To me, economy go yeah, any problem. And to me, can we say when owners become liabilities, the very individual tax to steering the ship can instead become anchors, dragging the company down into their management and financial ruin. And that's now you create infractions. Charge a BOG at the ball, Capital Bank and UG. Because 2 are the same day and I'm some call down. Now, I say specific offenses. No separation of activities of bank from those of their holding companies.
I'm to be maybe free bank no. Tomo nyuma bebre. This is GM Bank no or Gold Coast Securities or hotels bebre across. Into omo the frafra. Great. It's able to be first carefree bank no. Then they come your company with loan. Okay.
Report to what 2015.
NDC BOG 2015 report.
Right.
Okay.
Excessively high executive compensation schemes.
Yes. Okay.
Acceptance of gifts. Non-executive for somebody gift. They do accepting. Conflict of interest. No adherence to credit management principles. Now come be creditor. Your
creditor Bessia.
Who is Kakomobia on your mind this ho. HSO obitua no ntia. I had them say interesting. Board meetings were irregular.
But how do you check me? Internet say, no. Say sa credit management principles no na je say obi beje bosia say me no say call bank we say ekoje bosia en krato make say en fa bra esan say bank ne ye omo de na omo de o beje bosia na mo ono ane company na dadamfo ni ane nuenti no on jeje sa document no into office kan no de amano office kan de amano wa metu ya na che sa hye ente sa okay
Bank of Ghana sutia
and I share report in
share report heavily borrowing from high net worth individuals at a very high cost.
And no such as
Omo musika kese a this kind of buying a bank no interest and also no omo from the bank they're high also and he say yes also because we negotiate all the time. Now we first idea say supported infractions where numbers you rank it according to indicators we are. If it 2011 all the way basically 2014 bank here we say not report to be a mabio we who not report to be because of some eba I have no more toss year rank here 28 banks no more toss to 20 I have no more toss to 26 no more toss to 23 no more toss to 24 out of 28 just say more form and kuyi 18 share capital banks so in terms of rankings here no about 25 26 no kakra ha but I have never issue kakra what this side now about the other one in terms of GM Bank and you want 2 pay and then we say you can't say one to me and you want the bank was unable to meet the minimum capital of 80 million as a 20.
Na say wo be bank wo bank na wo no e wo sike bi ese wo gya na de to ase na wo de ye bank no eduba omo nti be nya sas card okay
ena o ka say so won timi nya sas card we dia mayente wo ho de na wo de be bank no na ye savings and no come back because no capital na e wo form no watimi ya man mre the bank na man mre somewhere from here, this figure, January 1st, 2019 to August 16, same year. So one media and the finances.
Into 1 year and to say or bet downgraded from bank to savings and loans.
So that what is
okay.
Until the report.
And also going to be on yet.
Okay.
But you ain't changing me. GM Bank, as a so yes, CKB. That's kind of wunya as I will to be a bank. Sen kan san kan baby me wa and sen kan for once announced be a bank but the entity to ma obi be a bank obi to be detail so to mean requirements be one of the requirements na enter so nya na $80 million when nya no say when nya dey a we to buy your savings and loans say na be ya won hia sa sika kese no na we to be dey savings and loans na e man embrace on fan ye eno so wan ye dey wan ye okay
now somewhere August and the Bank of Ghana said intima unfa ye dia odi adwuma ti fabre na ose ogie because of insolvency you will be liquidity na be chess and be jiska few me diska ma na me basin ba begia also san kamisika na na say a few hours and na say days or months but insolvent I call a long term obetime to ameka na ontime to ameka nti enyo akakra me say ode e kan but okan bi wa say among the other causes the central bank traced GN insolvency problems. Bank of Ghana report to the following. Overdraft and other credit facilities are the related parties.
Let us say, ne boni apart from sa we na went to be nyano. Ne boni ni bin so ne say Bank of Ghana be hu ye say na wama ono ne companies na eyi ono a ne de ne na bank no ne na fofo ne we no omo besia ayintiza
good
omo besia ni ade a of course omo no fasa document there is paperwork na me no require the be my no I see
related or say evaluate relevant prudential rules and ready at to hono
tia sambra
and okay we say we're not able to honor the obligation to loans
until I say omo gi en so mo ntumentua of course so we meet requirements and there's a scan of the mind okwakoye no nti obeje bosia na say no esasika no ho sika sasika na GM Bank de ma bosia na or the man in related parties enough for 4 days companies have been banned and now went to and why sika
investors
nti omo de omo sika kototo to GM bank because mo na wo for no mo de omo sika to so omo sika na na yakabom na area ni say
bank no you discard koto na abeje loan until the qua I was say obeji on saka but the call the other place obi correct me koye short term what I call long term investment it can happen then over figures actually the narrative let me say we know share rankings on my biwa na yemra details of related party transactions won say papa we scan call her na baha na call the other side related no
anti nipa ni nie but ono ani hu nipa nie no no ani hu nipa nie no no ani hu nipa nie no no ani hu nipa nie nti meme ne wo ene Ghana ni na wabrɛ enye skade akotoba ode kwa na papa e de ama ne hu nipa na ne hu nipa de ama ne hu nipa saa na ne nam saa nti omo na ye sika na de akɔ ne mo I see
and there's nothing wrong to say you don't open other companies
and your bonny of course
what be companies Bank of Ghana you are allowed
and as our company ni betumi tua betumi ade bosia na wa edwuma na wetua
but there are rules companies are as a UT your boss or reporting
and there's nothing wrong. In fact, we should even encourage a lot more
to open
of
more.
this.
But some of these can show rules
they apply
or the amount. Maybe another time we can tell the percentages how much and what all this. It's a way about 8 companies. But sure, if you are South Africa, if you are other countries, overshare capital about 14.
Also the Yesika depositors can be a company
14.
Of course, and also there's nothing wrong. But when to mean to your pay, let's just say there's something wrong. Okay.
And you also have to be careful. So a long term now they call a nice short term because some of them mineral companies.
Into Capital Bank, own an answer and be a company's Makuma 14. I see. Now sovereign bank, maybe sovereign bank.
Yes, so no shares.
Oh yes, I remember. And no Bank of Ghana Sika or the man no. Or the B as could be a bank.
It was a sovereign bank.
Yeah, into where be a capital bank. O bank no edeka and to me a struggle in a Bank of Ghana abeboa say any taxpayers money je na fa boa bank ni nyina ho ina wo de Bank of Ghana sika no de amount say fa save wo bank no wo bank na collapse na Bank of Ghana amount sika say fa save no wo sign the Bank of Ghana sika no de amount no e could be another bank I find a sovereign bank. Oh nice.
Then Bo be so. This of the company not the sovereign bank listen Overshare era Papa Penny Kakram say Obo Brentana you can't say but who say company very good companies
which is good because it must be encouraged
good
because say all companies wage na some de omo aka some ho den te say na me ne wo ne any other ordinary Ghanaian betumi aba o bank abeje bosia na omo ye bi na omo de I don't think there's anything wrong with that problem.
No, I don't think
yeah, because I don't see anything wrong with that. Because if this company can get the loan from the bank and pay and meet the requirements, I don't think there's anything wrong. So what was the problem?
Your threshold at 930 threshold about 25% or so. And it's also the man or related party transaction.
To the money pays what from
what beyond that? I say no.
Also so I went to be into
so, but the problem now, I say, also a buying sika contract to be a sika fee. We shall in your court, no. Your person will call the merit and the merits of the case, yeah. But then your court to say, a buy me tia, microphobia car, or not the contractors of financing. I mean, the calculation now, it's a Bank of Ghana GB2. But I didn't have visa. Say, my contract alone, your normal basic principles in banking. Before I give you a loan, or say most of the collateral CH.
Of course. And yeah, I buy a do collateral by individual business or emergency. I get it.
And the other end, go on the pay off. This is the law. I just say provide that Bank of Ghana say you can't do more than 25% of this related transaction. So these were the few things into the banking space. You know? And sometimes I have to give my position on certain things, and which is very important. So the Bank of Ghana delayed, then allowed financial malpractice to go on unchecked for too long. Now the crisis by. Say implement as at that time.
That time being
the 2015 when that report was released, and 2016 Once never call election, you say 20 years to aba. But within that period, you will give it to me. I cleaning IBB or but they be a 9% as a and see, and the money side buy. And this led to a significant erosion of public trust. Now banking costs are we investing. Students quite difficult to get. Yeah. Because reputation. And that's what we do. To students in my banking faculty, some be a programmer. Because of some of these things.
Because people have lost trust and belief in the banking sector.
And we say
because of what happened.
Good.
Because we allowed it to fester for too long.
And it's a connoisseur. So rather, I said this administration saved the banking space, the sector.
Could have been worse.
Could have been worse. Solution kakra say going forward. Let me say I have forget my kakra. I'd bet to just say going forward. No, as a minor, you also far yet me the age kakra. See, miracles. Let me say we kakra maka banking.
Professor, you see, I dear bakwa a wobby as a Japan say Asmaba. Now, what's a fabako? Now they are covered. I'm sure say a lot of people watching us are wondering, so all this while, why? Why haven't we taken our time to explain these things in this manner? Say, Yatina Sia Manifesta Abepum Sambria, that's why. And please, if you can pull the other presentation for us to go through that. Right. I think that one of the things I may find out from you is this. Which of the banks, you know, say some of the banks were merged and others were absorbed into Mekaise UT Bank and a capital bank there, GCB FAO. Now, say, we a bank, now say a can bank me and Sabumwa, does it amount to collapse?
See, I know say a cancer not to it in the beer. You use the word crisis, a common word crisis collapse. As part of business strategies, you know, your merger, your consolidation, there are so many ways out between day and your for about banking space and any other. And that was another strategy. So we can say, oh, I was saying you use different strategy anyway, mediatum. And there are discussions. So I think you use way and you use the other one, a discussion. And that's where we have conversations. But where I say, where do you say one year, boss, near far reason be a man, a hajim break. And you absorb, I'm so absorb some of them into commercial bank, HGB. I used to GB. I said the other 6 banks, you know. And
Dr. Devame, and before Oman Peniko for Ebefia Bemu, Ghana, say, you're the gateway to Africa. Obekaya, that was the timer. Now, Ufiena banks are Basa Bejabosia. You remember? Oh, yeah. You know, they were chasing us for loans. Standard Chartered Bank, that was when the Nigerian banks, Access Bank, you know, UBA, GT Bank, Fidelity Bank, the Ghanaian banks were all coming up. And then 2016, this is the former President John Mahama's statement. State of the Nation's address. Or say, over the past 5 years, there has been a proliferation of microfinance companies. These companies come under the direct supervision of the Bank of Ghana. Unfortunately, lack of effective supervision has resulted in many cases in which microfinance companies licensed by the Bank of Ghana have reached the rules and created supposed pyramid schemes that have eventually come crashing down. This is the former president speaking. The financial sector had issues. Emma, some of them crap. They were video. We got more video. Say there was a pyramid scheme. Please play the video for me quickly, and then we can move on. Prof, yes, street analysis, you know.
Oh no, I think it's time, sir, we speak to issues.
These microfinance companies come under the direct supervision of the Bank of Ghana. Unfortunately, lack of effective supervision has resulted in many cases in which microfinance companies licensed by the bank have breached the rules of procedure they were supposed to follow and have created supposed pyramid schemes that eventually came crashing down.
And see, this is the former president admitting at the State of the Nation's address, our finance sector now is crashing, is collapsing, and that some of them are creating supposed pyramid schemes. This is him speaking. Mahama admits banks collapse started under his government. Reporting the Bible. Setekpe takes responsibility for banking crisis. And then there's a letter from the Bank of Ghana. I don't know if I have it. But if I have it, please let me see that one. Where the so this is the Bank of Ghana. Writing then, further to the Bank of Ghana notice dated 30th August 2013. And then another one dated December 2013. The Bank of Ghana announces the information of the community rural banks and microfinance institutions, the revised minimum capital requirements for the industry. So again, nobody should ever say nothing was done in the process. Prof has given so much background to when the background as to when a crisis started. Yeah, Bank of Ghana report in 2015. I trade the cost of need difficulties. Any interventions are buying at the institutions. And more timelines, any deadline, and comply. The government then, the former President John Dramani Mahama's government then failed to take a decision that will save the microfinance companies. And it's important we take note of this. Microfinance companies, Egu, on Wakasaka State of the Nations address, say they are collapsing. It means that the NDC government had to take a decision to save the microfinance companies, save the businesses, save the employees, and save the depositors. They did not take a decision. What happened ultimately is that microfinance companies in Iguye, businesses in Iguye, employees in Ejuma, depositors in council, three stakeholders in Nina, Obia Lusu de Japadie. Take note, that was the NDC's solution to the crisis. And then you have all of these reports and all of these reports and all of these reports, all of these reports. You know, all these microfinance companies collapsing. And there is even a video. There is a video. We need some more video of the microfinance companies. Egua omo depositors. Please, if you have that video, play for me. The microfinance video. This is it. This is a video of microfinance companies. Depositors. Akoye queue. Almost sorry on a paper. Ye koye no ya to bank nim ye hu pani bia ene nkasa Bank of Ghana nso ni answer bia amomo. There is no solution for them. They have lost their money. Employees have come to work. There is no office to work. Businesses have collapsed. That is what happens if you fail to take a decisive decision. There be problem. Say asamba na say we ye penny na won tumi amfa wo na ensifam. Na when two and na more preoccupy and so ade na no a the basically say niam ni nyina behwerew. And it's important we make this point. Then the Bank of Ghana came in. The Bank of Ghana then came in and said that this one is the Bank of Ghana letter, the 2051 starting from 2012 in particular, the economy was characterized by large fiscal and current account deficits, high and volatile exchange rate development, and high inflation, but low real GDP, all of which exerted significant pressures on the banking system. At the same time, the governance challenges in the banking system, which you talked about, spilled over and significantly weakened financial sector supervision and regulation, while corporate governance structures were completely disregarded, a situation which exerted undue influence on risk systems and credit delivery in most banks. It is therefore not surprising that most banks' balance sheets deteriorated with large non-performing loans and significant capital erosion. This is the Bank of Ghana. And this is something that the Bank of Ghana started speaking about since 2015.
And this is the report.
And this is the report you referred to. Yes. The Asset Quality Review Report.
It was updated 2016.
Exactly. And there's a very important point that we need to make. Prof, yeka we nina na Bank of Ghana, I say, oh, banks see the yen to me momu ngu to send your microfinance companies, egu yen. And see, NDC are buying, and please, for the record, NDC's government, former President Mahama, this is a very good thing they did. Very, very good thing. Take note. It was a very good thing they did. The Omuye say, who say banks, earlier on from 2012, almost started say Omuboa banks. It's a bank now. owner no afa wo ne me deposit a odi akote company foforo wafa ne wo ne me any deposit a odi akoye adwuma foforo odi bosi ama na danfo odi bosi ama ne nua nti ama bank ne gu no still aban say esi a save bank no nti NDC government no wa fiscal no dia ma GM bank J na fa boa bank no Capital Bank J na fa boa bank no UT Bank J na fa boa bank no. So nobody should ever say adena abiding 9 billion akogu bank wa bank come the 9 billion in my bank now and come to me the saving bank no. The fact is that Abai actually made the effort to save the banks through liquidity support, which is sikana at the moment. I mean, this is our question. We are Capital Bank. Well, penny no be a bank no bar no be face cafe bank him. No, they acquire the fufro or bar no be fa. In fact, Capital Bank penny they do baby yourself face crack with Zimbabwe. And acquire mining. Oba na bank ni gunti na buying a disca. Government gave the Capital Bank at some point about 600 million. Said J and we taxpayers' money and yet depositors' money. Taxpayers' money. I buy the money said J as liquidity support. Na sign for save your bank no. First one we go no. Second one wash no. Third one wash no. Why should the government still continue to give money to such banks? To the extent that Sika Bank of Ghana, the mark Capital Bank, say onje na often save bank na onwa asay sika no. Capital Bank mpeni fone fa sika no. Esa ni kwate bank foforo. Can you imagine? Bank na egu na abaya man sika say onje na often save bank no. Abaya this can 2 1 no assign first sika no. No, they could be a bank for the sovereign bank. It is never true that government could have saved the banks with 9 billion by chose to collapse the bank. Government knew say the management of the banks, you know, are indisciplined, are irresponsible. And what government basically did was that Sikana the Capital Bank 1, 2, 3 no say you know, yenya for you perceive the boa Capital Bank depositors no. No this time no. Yeah, from my Capital Bank in Penifoni Bium. Yeah, the Sikane ma GCB Bank J. Kofa Capital Bank, na for UT Bank, na for Musha Utabayase, na Buomo. Nobody should ever say the MPP government collapsed UT Bank and Capital Bank. It is false. It is false because unlike microfinance companies now, and the depositors call bank or Mkoya Tumuno, every Capital Bank and UT Bank depositor. Sorry, you can't let the way out. It just say GCB taking over Capital Bank and UT Bank. No, they never lost their money. All they did was that Omo take our bank in your mom checkbook after the actual GCB also. And your mom savings friend said deposit way forms the actual GCB also. But you never lost your bank because you never lost your money. Mergers there and you collapse. Airtel Tigo Ekabomu na Airtel Eswa. Tigo swa omo ka omo bomu no omo be ye kese and then Airtel Tigo is one of the best when it comes to data in this country. Does it mean say Airtel is collapsed or does it mean Tigo is collapsed? No, they have come together to be stronger. Unibank, it will be recorded that on 20th March 2018 the Bank of Ghana appointed KPMG. KPMG's report confirmed, based on a detailed review and validation of the financial condition of Unibank, that the bank was balance sheet insolvent at the time of the appointment as official administrator and remains so. An official administrator, KPMG, made efforts to ascertain the assets and liabilities of the bank and evaluated options for the turning around of the bank's fortunes. However, KPMG found that the bank's operations are not sustainable. KPMG, internationally reputed audit firm, say, Omo say bank no, and ya dear bank no, omo betumi eji omo nan so based on omo normal. Among other things, the bank's interest income and other sources of income are insufficient to cover the associated cost of funds of underlying borrowings and liabilities, as well as overheads of about 0.31 billion per annum. This is the Unibank situation. Unibank was giving support, Capital Bank was giving support, Royal Bank was giving support, Base Capital was giving support, Sovereign Bank, all these banks were supported. Unibank, Ghana buying Emma Unibank close to about 6.1 billion cedis. What it means is that Embra Ghana buying who say Unibank and who extra on a bank and struggle no. I buy the 6.1 billion my Unibank saying come on save bank no. Almost sign she's can. I buy my Base Capital 3.2 billion. Almost sign she's can. aban ma UT Bank about 860 million omo shiska no aban ma Capital Bank about 610 million omo shiska no aban ma Royal Bank about 29.5 omo shi no Sovereign Bank. Think about this. Who a bank a friend the Capital Bank who struggle and a buy amount 610 million say for save you bank no say the buy a depositors who ko konti who jisika na wa fesika no na wo de ase akwate bank foforo wo de say bank Sovereign Bank no sa bank no so ehun e no why would you do this now say sa buy foforo aba na say wo mu say depositors who e be kire mo nti so say bi o ma say on sign fasika no san koma the same people after they had received money severally. So for the records, as a matter of fact, answer na Capital Bank, Sovereign Bank, Unibank, Beige Capital, UT Bank, all of them will be restructured and saved, Now a buy a decay at the online nisika momo say enfan save you in penny for no eshiskano. It is so be catcher say MPP are buying 9 billion. And somebody say be banks no man fan say be no mode go bank na catch on me say it's completely false. The MPP are buying here and say instead of say or this sika no be ma Capital Bank penny na odi ka share the buy the man no or the sika no e koma GCB bank say monje na mun take over Capital Bank depositors na mun customers nyina na mun protect the bank no and then all those depositors and customers of Capital Bank are doing well under GCB bank. But for that intervention by government and then ankasa bank we need deposit nyina and communina egu. Doc, Professor Dikayaka, the ma banks in collapse here. It's invested by here. Poor regulatory oversight. Bank of Ghana and Kasaneka. Political interference. Some banks engage in risky lending, often influenced by political connections. It happened in this country. Non-performing loans, inadequate capitalization, and mismanagement. Sabaima was Casa Festival Bank. That's our first Canada could be a bank for mismanagement. Former Capital Bank CEO Niletena, Professor Khan Wasemno, it was reported online by CTFM Online. Graphic Online, non-performing loans, thievery by staff collapsed UT Bank. We see you Nagasa account. Or say the bank, no, the NTM now, Emma Bank, no, because Omuma loans and microphone bank, the staff, no, area Nesika. And yet, on one. And the stories go on and on and on and on and on. Now, Bank of Ghana shares here. In fact, Bank of Ghana's investigation conducted revealed also that a significant amount of 62 million, and this is a $2 million, i.e. about 718,000, and another 4,200 euros of deposited funds held with GN Bank had been transferred to International Business Solutions, another company owned by the GN Group Indum and which is based in the USA, without any documentation to support such transfers in breach of Section 19 of the Foreign Exchange Act, Section IV of Bank of Ghana notice number, and subsequently Bank of Ghana notices issued. Like I said, facts only. The fact of the matter is that Bank of Ghana investigation say GN Bank in Peninfo, FR wo enemy ene Ghana for omudi omusika kwato bank ne sika e de call America brochi memu say omu kwako bie bank foforo wa bra no muntumi ntua wo sika ema ye wo video bi if you have that video if you can play it briefly.
Receipt for her mortgage, handwritten.
It's like the Flintstones, that's what I call it.
The Stone Age paper system is why Stewart pays her mortgage in person.
I always write the address, my mother's name.
She wants proof she paid.
The check number.
She doesn't trust the bank's record keeping, and if anybody has a good reason not to, it's Stewart.
I always cry, and I think about my mother and what they did to her.
Here's what they did. In 2018, GN Bank sold the mortgage on this house, her mother's house, along with many others, to York Properties. It just so happens that the chairman of GN Bank also manages York Properties.
Prof, so this is the situation. Inti ufa deposit sika in Ghana, edoko America, so uka could be another bank of America. I want for Bank of Ghana mbra kwanso. Na ene same deposit about banks so be jini sika. Na want to be in yamana. We say a buying because I buying the taxpayers' money mount. Is it the case say all the other banks apart from GM Bank pen and depositors in your music?
In fact, issue where a big issue. Now, I'm saying, man, penny, we make Cadivia say, can be say a referee. Okay.
Yeah,
Every crack. Obo video back na yamaraho. Ko former co bank or ko jom sika. Omuntimi. You're feeling in a short time.
Yeah.
Obo share ye university e wono. Ye ma documents for a program. Na more 2 years 1 year before a besono. Also don't cry time na ba number shimu. And say another year some they're running. So there are laws and there are rules. Can you go through this?
And see, grounds on revocation of GN Bank's license. And no, I think Prof mentioned a lot of them, but I mean, of course, GN Bank adjusted net worth was negative, 30 million. Of course, how far deposits seek out of America could be a bank for free without Bank of Ghana documentation. Always struggle. GN Bank had capital adequacy ratio of negative 61.20. GN Bank was facing a severe liquidity crisis with numerous complaints received by the Financial Stability Department. The structure of GN balance empty a lot of the issues. And these are issues for 18 report, 18 document. Government never collapsed GN Bank. Government of Ghana, Nana Danko Kufuor did not collapse GN Bank. GN Bank, not egu. Egu just like all the other banks. Now the only reason why we are customer of GN Bank and nobody can say be on Sanka can say Capital Bank ni UT Bank no. A Bank of Ghana instructed you say GCB and conform na and protect your depositors no mumbo no. Omo ti ase into omo depositors no omo sorry no pon omo call omo bank no. Omo koye normal so omo koye any other bank. The only difference and so be kono na asesa sign no from Capital Bank to GCB. But GM Bank there or the abaya kokot so nti ase. It means that abaya nya the processes ni wie enunti na wo se bi wo GM Bank na bia we ka se won saka wo sika e bia won saka wo sika. All the other banks na ye ka omo bo mu na ye ka omo bo mu no a omo forming CBG no omo nyina wo se bi wa you just go to any CBG brand no akodi wo sika no akọ transact with business normal. Again, this is very important. No bank was collapsed by the MPP government. CBG Bank, Ebra GCB, Ghana Commercial Bank, Ecofa, Capital Bank, NA, UT Bank, no, and I say, Sikana and Kayadebema Capital Bank in Penny 40 Senia, and this are binding kind of more almost no. So I'm fan saving depositors funds, any depositors Sikano. Yeah, fan back. Capital Bank ni UT Bank mpenifobium koso mu hu so hwe eti GC Bank je na fa hwe sa bank we eso na make sure say obebo mu hu ban na omo depositors sika iden are protected. That is the decision the MPP government through the Bank of Ghana has taken to ensure say over 4.6 million Ghana for mako 4.6 million na nkomusika ebe hye the way microfinance companies and the NDC government ensure that GCB will protect these depositors. And under NDC, when the microfinance companies were struggling, this is what people keep saying. Say, oh, but they never talk about their depositors now, or musika and so on. And the NDC had a choice. What do they have to do? They have to fix this microfinance industry in order to ensure, say, either say you save owners of the bank, no, and you save employees, no, and you save depositors, no. Omutla wa yenhwe haya ema ade no guye. Enti at the end of the day, no, NDC for position was that we should just leave it and pretend as if it doesn't exist. And no, in the owners of 82 microfinance companies eguye under the NDC. Estimated of about 22,000 employees on we ejuma what do you say normally microfinance companies on doso on mo market e ko ticket on ye daily susu e doso on nyuma guye and na afa estimated of about 8 million vulnerable depositors again when you say microfinance bodwa for no doso hu ne sa no a lot on nyina so e ho chi omo until you see indecision by the NDC lost owners of the business. 22,000 employees estimated 8 million vulnerable depositors. But the MPP government decided to save the situation. Of course, so we are owner of Capital Bank. Now say MPP are buying this side. They say, yeah, the Wusikano, Anke, the Bema will say you buy farmer will be because the Bema will now share. Into the Bema GCB, not GCB, BCB, the owner of Capital Bank said the Jumanegu.
Of course.
Because we lose the business. No more, the depositors are there. Only now is safe. Yeah. Employees, you know, about 50% of the employees of these banks, about 50%, almost more than that, were absorbed. It's GCB. It take over Capital Bank, UT Bank, no. Employees don't need more UT Bank, they be almost formal. And employees need more, say Capital Bank, they be almost formal. Sa pencil and CBG employees need more who be na formal. The fact is that no correct. In the process, some people lost their jobs. In the process, some people lost their jobs. Some people lost their companies. But the fact of the matter is that under the NDC, everybody lost their microfinance companies. Everybody lost their jobs and everybody lost their depositors. Under MPP, some people lost their banks. Some employees, in fact, all the 8 owners obviously will lose their bank. But some employees actually did not lose their jobs. But genuinely, admittedly, some lost their jobs. And we regret that. I don't think, say, a government wish, say, anybody would have lost their job. But the truth of the matter is that, go and check with those who are working with Unibank, Unisecurities, GM Bank. They will tell you, say, even before our banks will be merged in Impono, 6 months in Tuamokaye, 8 months in Tuamokaye, 4 months in Tuamokaye, some of them were being paid peanuts. The bank was eventually going to collapse like the way the microfinance companies collapsed, and you were going to lose your job anyway. So, government actually saved some jobs. But the good news is that about 4.6 million depositors, are no musika the bank. Nanka banking sector ni collapse ya. Or minus to the glory of God were saved by the MPP government. Simply by the decision of the MPP government to get GCB to absorb UT Bank and Capital Bank, and to get CBG to absorb all these banks, construction-based, sovereign, Royal Bank, and Unibank. This is the smartest decision we could have taken as a country to ensure that yeah, go through Greece crisis now, earlier on. It's say obi be catch will say MPP are buying egu banks it is not true. The insurance say and name you know can say Consolidated Bank Ghana post profit in Q1. Consolidated Bank Ghana. Bank of Ghana commends CBG for delivering strong banking services. The point is that banks now CBG FR omono. No more banks are not egu. No more banks are no more into negatives. No more banks are no more running losses. And these banks are strong and resilient, and the depositors' money are safe, and they are doing their businesses like never before. Fact, no bank was collapsed by the MPP. Obia wa Ghana ha or say bank be ewo my way more it was collapsed by the MPP. Kacha say you should come for us to have a debate on it. There is no official document that even says that the MPP government has collapsed any bank. That is not true. 2015, this is not Professor Isaac Wadika, you know. 2015. And now NDC are buying Bank of Ghana. A release statement say banks no egu. Banks no egu. Financial sector no is under stress. And identify 10 banks. Yeah. 10 banks that were in distress. As I said, are buying and now mining young baby. In fact, they said they need to be resolved and to be dealt with immediately, otherwise we'll be in a crisis. On Mampeni John Dramani Mahama and Kasa Echo Parliament. Echo catch the Parliament at the State of the Nation's address say. At the State of the Nation's address say, on my way, financial sector no, is collapsing. And we needed to save the financial sector. It was coming. It was imminent. It was staring us at our face. It was something that was inevitable. All we needed to do was to have a leader that was bold and confident to deal with the decision once and for all. Now, bank negu, one man is kabako, still I was saying, one man in Minu was saying, one man the Tosomians was saying, when you're the Toso 9 was a sign farmer the same person. Yengu bank bia, the ANSA, Penny Fona no more share bank, National Capital Bank, the UT Bank, na bind this sika more no mo hye no aban say mo bank no depositors no sika na ya at risk nti ye mfa sika bi anhye mu nsem se mo mfa nse bi bank rebium GCB mo sika se mo ye nti mo take over Capital Bank and UT Bank na ye ma mo moa na mo mfa nse bi bank no ene GCB has saved these two banks and the depositors money are intact and GCB is doing well. Aban say Sovereign Bank, Beige Bank, Construction Bank dey ka ho ni nyina no yen ka mo nyina ambom na yen form a bank ba ko mamo. How does that amount to collapse? When you bring several companies together to merge into a business, how does it amount to collapse? Until all these banks came together and almost forming CBG Bank. Today, CBG Bank is posting profit, and the customers and the depositors of these little banks are doing well. This is a very good decision. In fact, in the process, some owners lost their banks. That's not a problem to us because they mismanaged the banks, and some of them, as we speak, are even in jail for the mismanagement. So that's not even an issue. But unfortunately, and that for me is what we should all talk about. That people will lose their jobs simply because of indiscipline of their leadership. That is a worry. That is a concern. And we regret it. But we had to save 4.6 million people. It is a way of buying. And our 4.6 million people are running into billions of cedis versus 4,000 employees who are going to lose their jobs anyway, because if we don't intervene, their banks will collapse anyway, some of which were not even receiving salaries for so many months. What would you have done? This is something that you, the Ghanaian voter, would have to take a decision on. The government that took a decision to save 4.6 million people, or the government that sat down and watched this thing collapse and deteriorate to the point where we're almost going to crash the entire economy. Now, some person who said in city here, microfinance companies now 82, yes, sorry, no power action. That is the kind of decision we had to take. In all of this, it is very important, say Rebecca, I say, the signs were on the wall. The signs were on the wall. The signs were happening. Everything was quite clear. This is also a UT Bank memo, just as we had a Capital Bank memo showing what has been going on and what has been happening. And so why would anybody ever say MPP are buying ego banks? And they jai and a sound throwaway or indeed, if there is anything that the MPP government has done, it is to save collapsing banks. The government saved collapsing banks. But of course, in the process of saving the collapsing banks, some bank owners lost their companies, and indeed, some employees also lost their jobs. But we have saved 4.6 million depositors. What person will crucify for saving 4.6 million depositors against 8 bank owners and about 4,000 employees? Go ahead and crucify us. But remember, we took a decision to protect 4.6 million people as against 8 owners and a few others. Adia senkaya in any way, banks no ebegu. Te send microfinance companies no egu ye no. Ye de ne se ya ntena ho amane ngu. Ye intentem eka omo bomu se na be o ma ho de no ebe kosoro. Ene ehun sunsuanso no muntie dia bank penin pa Mr. Al Hassan eka efa the current situation what's happening to the bank. May I video quickly Niambra.
After we saw it, I mean, for us, and again, coming back to peer review, I always remind people about the asset quality review that was done by the central bank itself. This was really, for me, the seminal study that showed us that the industry was not in good shape. And therefore, we needed to then have one-on-one conversations with the central bank. This was 2015. So most people will see the final conclusion 2017-2018, but we actually did, from the peer review, from the asset quality review that was conducted by the central bank, know that there was a lot to be fixed, and people were given time to fix, and those that couldn't be fixed, that got into a kind of hiatus, had to be kind of then dealt with by the regulator in the manner that we saw towards the end of 2018.
So we knew?
Yes, we knew. Those of us in the industry knew. We're managing it.
Now, how is the banking sector doing these days?
I should say that year to date, it's quite strong performance. We've seen deposits grow. We've seen loans to the private sector picking up. We've seen lot of banking products and services being rolled out by various banks. So back to business and strong.
Are we out of the woods yet?
I would say we are out of the woods. The main banking sector is out of the woods. Yeah. No, I mean significantly a lot of change. The central bank has been very clear. The directives and controls and stepped up supervision of banks is come to stay and can only get.
And see, Mr. Alassane Anani said the main banking sector is out of the woods. And then, you know, in fact, if you 2016, there were 33 banks. The Brina air struggle, Yakabo Mubo Mononafi, Abe 23 banks. Professor, correct? Yeah. And see, 2020 to 2023, in fancy, 23 banks. Omo assets, Omo Sika Semono. Now, as at 2016, 82.6 billion. Yeah, recapitalization in Area 129 billion. And then a Peja Kra Kosro, Emma, and I'm 274 billion. The senior Mr. Alassane Kayano, we are out of the woods. The banking crisis is over. We have a very resilient, strong banking sector that is ready to support private sector to grow. Into our here, kwani ye improvement and ye improve. Prof, ye de nkobone be all right. We can say twatwo.
Well, say if only a bit more chama at here for say banking sector no, ye fa ni agro. The collapse here, entire economy will shut down because everything BBA no e honefa. Enti ye kasa ni ahwe ni ye ni akasa ni ahwe sene you be kanafa. Now you be can say over 4,000 against 4.6 million depositors. Asemba one of the sacrifice no. And now they also for. That question I mean to me no. I was be saying in throughout the presentation no. Why was that report delayed?
Why was the report delayed? Professor Bodi, that's it. Now, you had the what's so I say one and you have been in all of this. Dr. Mahmoud Bamia is saying, vote for him. He's decisive. On my report to be in delay, then Kofasa Mumbre. He has a clear plan, a clear strategy going into the future to ensure say Ghana's next chapter of development. A better will be able to contribute towards the productivity of our economy. And then you may do back in the BD to set the record straight, to demystify the banking sector crisis, and to explain what the issues are to you. Yet the answer you be church assembly, yet no crane be done at all. Now one so we ko to aba na say no ye nyina so ba kwa do beto aba when ye nyina so no say na city e prekope. Nyame adom a ya woda 7:30 p.m. pepepe. Ye be san so hia na ya the 12th episode of the next chapter. Aha, no kran ko an ye ka. Yen kasa nti obi, yen di mpanimfo atem, yen kasa kasantwi. Bebi eda no eho ene ye to prof medase. Ebuzuafo yakra mu nyina.